Commissioner Aceves, Commissioner Allen,
Here.
Commissioner Freeman,
Here.
Commissioner Guyer,
Here.
Commissioner Hartman,
Here.
Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Richardson,
Here.
Commissioner Sierra, Commissioner Stark, Commissioner Waterfield,
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Aceves, Commissioner Nelson, and Commissioner Sierra are absent.
Thank you. The next item of business is the Assembly Bill 361 determination. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak from the public?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item. And at this time, I would just like to remind members of the public who are wishing to be called on for any public comment or agenda items to click on the raise hand button on Zoom or press *9 on your touch-tone phone when the item that they wish to speak on has begun. When the chair calls for public comment, the clerk will announce you and will unmute your microphone at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would now, assuming there is no public comment on this, I will now entertain a motion to approve the AB 361 determination.
So moved, Waterfield.
Well, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Waterfield,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Chair Stark.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item of business is the approval of minutes from the August 11th, 2022 meeting. I would entertain a motion. I assume there's...
Hartman moves approval.
Second, Waterfield.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Waterfield,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Chair Stark.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would note that Commissioner Nelson has joined the meeting. Good afternoon. Now the time for public comment. This is the time for members of the public to speak on items that are not on our agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak on items not on the agenda?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on public comment.
Thank you. The next item of business is the approval of the consent calendar. Would any commissioners like to pull an item from the consent calendar? We had a feigned motion there. Are there any requests to speak from the public on an item on the consent calendar?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, we have no request to speak.
Thank you. I would now entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved, Waterfield.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Waterfield,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Chair Stark.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is out-of-agency service agreement. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, out-of-agency service agreement number 1 is to consider recommendations regarding Lafco application file number 22-05 for an out-of-agency service agreement for the Santa Ynez Community Services District to provide sewer service to 2517 Janin Way, Solvang, California 93463, APN 139-061-005, and to consider approval of a resolution.
Thank you. I would ask our executive officer to report on this item.
Thank you,
Yes,
Chair and Commissioners. Happy September. Get our PowerPoint up and running here. This is an out-of-agency service agreement for sewer service into the Santa Ynez CSD. This happens to be a third out-of-agency service agreement that the Commission has considered in the last several years on Janin Way. As with the prior two, the applicant, by resolution of application, becomes the sanitation or the Santa Ynez CSD itself. So they act on behalf of the landowner's request, who approved an out-of-agency service agreement at their meeting, which authorized them to initiate that action with your commission. As it was indicated, this is a single parcel located at 2517 Janin Way. It's approximately about an acre. This would replace their on-site septic, and they would connect through a lateral into the main line into the district sewer for sewer service. In this case, the sphere of influence for this particular parcel is outside of the district's sphere of influence. That sphere was last updated in 2017. It does happen to be in the sphere of influence for the city of Solvang. And the city of Solvang has agreed through a letter authorizing the approval to allow the CSD to serve this parcel rather than the city of Solvang itself. This is the parcel at 2517 Janin Way. We also happened to receive the public health threat letter indicating that there is a threat to public health and safety if they were to continue with their septic system, which is the reason why they've filed for an out-of-agency service agreement. As indicated, this is a residential single-family home that exists. There are no changes that will be facilitated with this change. It is zoned in the county as 1E1. The district has prepared a plan for service. It outlines their capability and adequacy to provide sewer service to this property. And that plan for service can be found in your attachments, attachment F. So we indicated this is a sewer lateral that would connect this property to the main line that runs along Highway 246, Mission Drive Road. And as indicated, they have provided the documentation of the threat to health and safety to the public to be able to provide this connection outside of being in the sphere of influence. As the Commission is aware of, the proposal is less than a half a mile from the CSD's boundary to be able to provide this sewer service. It is, the CSD has a main sewer line that runs along Mission Drive, which is Highway 246. It's on the back end of the property, so they would connect through that. All of the CSD's effluent is collected and transported to the city of Solvang's wastewater treatment plant. So this would be an addition service as part of that, all within their capability of their percent ownership within that plant. And under 56133, when an area is asked to be served through an out-of-agency service agreement that is not within the agency's sphere of influence, they have to document that there is a public health and safety threat. And that has been done in this case, along with the city of Solvang agreeing to allowing the CSD to provide the service rather than the city themselves. So the district, when they initiated this action, adopted a exemption, a class 1, class 3 exemption. We've evaluated that and agree, and we are adopting those same exemptions, as this is just a kind of a repair and maintenance of the existing structure and provide a new lateral for that equipment. So it fits within that classification. Commission's policy states that when the property may ultimately be annexed to a city or district, approval of this outside agency service agreement should require the landowner to agree to an annexation of the territory into the future. That has been added as a condition of approval, and that agreement is attached as part of your packet. And both the district itself and the property owner, they have consented to the out-of-agency service agreement. So to conclude, that the site is located in one of the special problems area within the county, known as the Janin Acres Special Problems Area. So having these parcels provided public sewer service is the goal here, and is a good thing. And so this is one means of achieving that. The existing main line is within an adjacent street, and so it does make sense. It's reasonably easy to achieve. And we can make the findings in this case of the public health and safety threat with a letter from the Public Health Agency. I will note that the staff is currently preparing a municipal service review for which the San Ynez CSD is an agency being evaluated. Janin Acres is one of the areas that's going to be studied as part of this service review update, and we will make a conclusion about whether or not to include that entirety of that Janaway Acres into this CSD's sphere of influence for any future connectivities that might help assist future sewer connections and not necessarily needing the public health threat determination. So with that, we are recommending that you make an approval of a resolution and an outside agency service agreement between the landowner and the CSD. I will note a couple of changes within those attachment documents. Within the resolution, we have the third whereas. It's notated as a potable wastewater service, and that whereas, we'd like to strike the word potable. Just provide wastewater service. And now we have in the title, we've indicated the city of San Ynez when it's really a district. So we've got a typo in that as well. And then lastly, the attachment for the agreement, the property owner's name is Randolph and not Randall. He doesn't go by Randall. So he indicated that. So we've made that change and submitted that to the property owner. We want to make sure we get his name right and the right person is signing that agreement. So those are the three noted changes on the attachments. With that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer any.
Thank you. Are there any questions from commissioners? I have the tiniest of technical questions. Am I at liberty to, if this is approved, am I at liberty to sign the document and then you will attach the text with the typos corrected?
We will get those typos corrected
Right.
if you sign that.
Yeah, they've been read into the record, so that I just want to, thank you. Madam Clerk, Are there any requests to speak from the public on this item?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, we have no request to speak.
Thank you. The item is back to the board or the commission for discussion. I would entertain either discussion on the mission or a motion to approve. As the motion would be.
Waterfield.
Commissioner Waterfield?
Motion to,
Was that a
can you hear me?
I could hear a sound, but could not make out the words.
Okay, that was a motion to approve.
That's a motion to approve the item with the typographical.
With the changes. Yes.
With the changes as indicated. Thank you. Is there a
second?
And we have a second from Commissioner Freeman. Is there any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman, Commissioner Hartman,
Aye, sorry about that.
Commissioner Waterfield,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Chair Stark.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is changes of organization. Would the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, changes of organization item number 1 is to consider approval of Lafco application file number 22-04 for the 806 Toro Canyon Road Sphere of Influence Amendment and annexation to Montecito Water District, annexation number 25, as well as adoption of a resolution.
Mr. Executive Officer, would you please report?
Thank you, Chair and Commission. This is the sphere of influence and annexation into Montecito Water District. Again, the Montecito Water District applied at the request of the landowner. So there's a resolution of application initiating this application. In this case, it is almost a 15-acre parcel that sits just on the outer boundary of the water district. And so they would annex into the district, and the district would only provide water service in this case. Again, as indicated, this is outside of the district sphere of influence, which was updated in 2017, and we will be amending that sphere and authorizing an annexation. Here's the map of the area. Back here, if I can see if I can pinpoint this, here on the eastern edge of Montecito Water District, just north of that parcel. Here's a close-up of that parcel. So it's within a reasonable proximity. Again, the land use is residential. It's currently a vacant parcel right now. The applicant and owner proposes to build a new single-family residential house and needs a will-serve letter to be able to get past the building department to get their authorization to proceed with their residence. And this would allow the water district to provide that tentative will-serve letter. So currently, it would not facilitate any changes in land use. It would remain. In this case, we got another typo here. It's not agricultural in the county. It's actually residential ranchette, residential in the county, R20. And that will not change. The district has prepared a plan for services, and they took this to their board and provided a staff report that identified where their nearest facilities were located. That's all included in your attachment F. In this case, the landowner would draw a rather long length of a lateral from their house to a cluster of groups of water meters that would tie in where other neighboring properties are tied into the main water line system. So as it being outside of the sphere of influence, and we're amending that, we need to go through our determinations to amend the sphere of influence. So we look at the planned land uses. In this case, it's planned in the Toro plan to have residential development, so that makes it consistent. The probable need for services, obviously they're building a new single-family residential house and they need to connect to water. As they've prepared studies to try and drill a well and it did not come back as very fruitful, that the well would be a reliable source into the future. And so the water district is the most reliable entity to provide that. The residents would maintain a septic system on site, and the fire service is already provided by Carpenter Summerlin Fire Agency. The capability and adequacy of the service, as we indicated, the nearest main line is approximately 1,500 feet away. Would require the property owner to get himself an easement across a neighboring lot to make it to the cluster of water meters. In his fortune, the neighboring lot happens to be a family member, and so they're reasonableness that they will grant that easement across that. So that was something that we wanted to make sure would actually happen. And then obviously Montecito is a place for shopping and services, and so the social economic communities of interest are being met, and the site is not qualified under a disadvantaged community. So those are the determinations that we can make to amend the sphere of influence. And with that, we're adopting a Class 19 and a general rule exemption for existing facilities and lots being annexed. And the common sense that when they add the house under a building permit, there are no impacts and does not require any county planning approvals for that building permit to build a house. And again, it's an uninhabited, meaning less than 12 registered voters on a vacant parcel. The district has consented through their submittal of the application and resolution, and the property owner has also consented through a letter. So we can proceed with the annexation without the notice and hearing of the protest proceedings. So to conclude, obviously the site is located in an area that allows the district to be the best service provider. They are adjacent. There are no other water providers in the area. The sphere of influence revision and the annexation does represent the most logical and reasonable extension of service. And so we think we can make those determinations. So lastly, we would recommend the commission approve and adopt the resolution for these findings and amend the sphere of influence and annex the territory into the Montecito Water District. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer any.
Thank you. Are there any, thank you, Mr. Prater. Are there any questions from commissioners? Are there any requests to speak from the public?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, we have no request to speak.
And do I understand correctly, this is both a sphere amendment and an annexation, and there's no objection from any entity or property owner concerned?
Correct.
Thank you. If there are no requests to speak, the item is back to the board for discussion. Is there any discussion?
I will move the item. Not only is water, according to the report, water from well inconsistent, but we don't really, in Montecito Water District, we don't really want people to be drilling new wells. It's very difficult to manage a basin with over 1,500 active wells, and very few of those are for ag purposes. Almost all of those are residential purposes. And so, I think there's really no downside in this case.
Thank you.
So that would be a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Waterfield.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Waterfield, Commissioner Waterfield,
I'm sorry, aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Chair Stark.
Aye.
And Chair Stark, if I may note for the record that Commissioner Sierra has joined our meeting on Zoom.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I gather the motion passes.
Yes, that's correct. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. The next item is business item number 1. Would the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, business item number 1 is to consider approval of a resolution and memorandum of understanding authorizing an application between Special District Risk Management Authority, Sdrma, and Santa Barbara Lafco for ancillary health benefits, including dental and vision.
Thank you. Mr. Prater, would you
Thank you,
please
Chair and
report?
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. This is just that as an item. This would add vision and dental as a service for LAFCO employees. I know there's a number of documents that we'll end up getting the chair's signature on in this, but it is all to just say that the commission already pays your employees health care benefit, which is $933.66 per month. The cost for this would be borne under that payment already made. And so if this exceeds any of that amount, then the employee will have to pay out of their own pocket to cover that additional expense. And so we feel like it's good to add this coverage for your employees to be able to offer both healthcare and dental and vision. And Sdrma is a reputable agency that a lot of individuals provide service from and health coverage. The reason we had to wait until now is Sdrma requires a minimum of 2 employees to enroll into their services, and we didn't have 2 employees until July.
Yeah.
With that, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
My question is whether this one single business item covers the various resolutions, including workers' compensation, health insurance, and the like, or are there separate items for that?
The workers' compensation is a separate item. That's business item 2.
Okay.
This is just for ancillary vision and dental coverage for the employees.
Thank you. Are there any requests to speak from the public?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, we have no request to speak from the public.
I didn't ask for questions for commissioners. Are there any questions from commissioners? If not, the matter is back to the board for discussion or a motion for approval.
Motion for approval, Waterfield.
You have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Hartman.
Motion. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Stark, if I may, before we call the roll, Commissioner Sierra is going to serve as our voting member due to the fact that Commissioner Estevez is absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please
Now we will call our roll. Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Waterfield,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Sierra,
Aye.
Chair Stark.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That brings us, I believe, to business item number 2. Is that correct? Business item number 2. Will the
Yes.
clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, business item number 2 is to consider approval of a resolution and memorandum of understanding authorizing an application between Special District Risk Management Authority, Sdrma, and Santa Barbara Lafco for workers' compensation liability insurance agreement.
Thank you. Mr. Prater.
Thank you, Chair. As we just enrolled ourselves, hopefully, into health coverage for ancillary services, Sdrma also offers additional services, and one of them is workers' compensation, among a number of host of other services like risk management and other services. We currently have workers' compensation through Employers Preferred, which is a group that we sought that is out of Reno, Nevada. That is our current coverage. This would transition that coverage to Sdrma. And so we would have multiple policies with Sdrma, one being the ancillary benefits, and the second would be workers' compensation with them. The difference between the two carrier packages is that Sdrma requires a minimum of 3-year commitment to that. Their annual cost allocation for that is slightly higher than our current premium is with employers, but the coverage is greater. So it covers each employee at a minimum of $5 million for coverage versus our current $1 million policy under employers. And so we feel it would be good to transition at this point to Sdrma as an alternate coverage provider for this. And here's the rationale that I'm looking at is at some point we may also want to pick up risk management services. And being a party to Sdrma would benefit us down the road if we were to pick up risk management services because we'd already be an Sdrma a client of theirs. And so we're looking a little bit further down the road. We currently have risk management through the county, and that's paid out as part of our cap allocation that we pay into. But it might be nice to if in the future we might need to expand any of those services, we would have somebody to go to. At this point, we don't want to add risk management. We just want to add workers' compensation as a program to add to. And so as I indicated, there's a 3-year commitment. There are a number of resolutions and JPAs that the commission would be joining as standard applications for workers' compensation. One of them is that we maintain our membership as CSDA. We have been a member, and we will anticipate maintaining a membership into CSDA. But that would be another requirement as that. So with that, I think that will answer any questions that you may have about workers' compensation and why we might want to transition. I'd be happy to answer any.
Thank you. Are there questions from commission members? And if I may ask, do I have this correctly? I'm looking at a number of resolutions in front of me. There's one in which we join the Joint Powers Agency, is that correct? And then there are a couple others in which we enroll in the various insurance programs, the workers' compensation and the liability program. Is that generally it?
That is correct.
And that's what we're called upon to approve.
Yep.
Thank you. Is there a net cost for us, external cost for joining this?
Not to join Sdrma, but the workers' compensation annual cost is $1,355.
That's irrespective of, that doesn't count claims, right?
Does not count claims. There is a zero deductible on any of this policy, but there is that annual payment, and that payment is based on our payroll. So as our payroll increases, that will slightly increase as well.
And in light of the fact that we now have 2 employees, would you characterize that cost as unavoidable?
Yeah, I would say that cost is. I mean, obviously, we started out with employers. That initial cost was $965. We added an employee and had increased salaries. That jumped to $1,169 for this year. We are on an annual with employers. We'd be on a minimum of 3-year commitment with Sdrma. And we would, I forgot what I was going to say there, but we would enroll into that. Employers ends on November 23rd, and so we would enroll by November 23rd with Sdrma. It would be the goal of the target date. So we'd let this policy get to its final end term, and then we would start anew with Sdrma was the goal.
Thank you. Are there any requests to speak from the public, Madam Clerk?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
Thank you. That would conclude public comment, and the item is back to the commission for discussion, if any, or a motion, if none. I would
Motion to approve Waterfield.
Is that a motion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second from Nelson.
Do we have a motion and a second? Is there any further discussion? And I'm hearing no request for discussion. Would you please? I heard a noise, but not a request for a discussion. So I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer, Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Waterfield, Commissioner Waterfield,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Sierra, Commissioner Sierra,
Aye from Sierra. Sorry.
thank you, and Chair Stark.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is business item number 3. Madam Clerk, please read that item into the record.
Chair Stark and members of the commission, business item number 3 is to consider amendments to the Commissioner Handbook and CEQA determination.
Thank you. Mr. Prater.
Thank you, Chair and Commission. I promise someday we will be done cleaning up this handbook. I, for one, would be looking forward to that day. But as we made some changes through some of the items and certainly hired an employee that facilitated the necessity to change a number of sections within our handbook. So section 3 of our handbook deals with ethics, and we needed to amend slightly. It currently covered the commission and the EO. We now have staff, and so we wanted to insert the word staff for EO, so it covers all employees. And then we added some additional language so that we would have some consistency with our employee handbook, section 13. And this would also help facilitate some edits that we'd like to do and host on our website as well. And so we'd have consistency throughout all of our documents to be able to clean up section 3 under ethics and values and goals that we strive for. Section 6 deals with the rules. This is the section that is new. And so this section is being requested of the commission to place a formality to agendizing items on our agenda that would be subject to the commission's concurrence. And so we're requesting some new policy there on how that would work. At the time when we get to new future agenda items for the commission, that they would announce those items, and then we'd get concurrence from the commission to know that staff would put those on some future agenda item date.
So, Mr. Chair, just to be clear, that would be, it could be something as simple as what you've done in the past, which is be without objection, this is ordered on the next agenda, or it could be a motion and vote. But I know there's sometimes a without objection statement by the chair, and if there is no objection, that's usually taken as a substitute for a motion and a vote.
Is there any reason not to vote on this? And just if we wanted to consider it further?
No, I just know the practice, and I think it's recognized in Rosenberg's Rules of Order that sometimes action is taken on like procedural matters where the chair says if there's no objection, this will be placed on the next agenda, as an example. If you want to make it by vote, that's what actually Mr. Prater had originally, and I was trying to preserve the past practice. But the intention here is that it has to be the concurrence of the commission, and yes, normally that would be a motion and a vote, but if it was done without objection, That's still possible. I'm not saying it should be done. If you want to
I
tighten
I
it
think
up.
the better practice is have the commission look at the thing and approve it if it's okay. If any commissioners want to take a good look at it and bring it back, that's fine. That's fine too. I don't know that we're in a hurry.
No, we're just talking about a motion or a concurrence to put the item on the next agenda. That's all.
Well, if all it is to put the item on the next agenda, I would, I can't see an objection to it, but if there's no objection, consider it done. How's that?
That's what we've been doing in the past.
Okay, I'd
But if
take,
there's some dispute or some grumbling by a commissioner, then a motion and vote might be the answer to that.
my ears are keen for signs of grumbling, and I hear nary a grumble.
Well, that's essentially what the policy language would lay out, is that process. And that's what we're suggesting, and it would give the flexibility for the chair to make that call.
Fair enough.
So Section 8 deals with conflict of interest, and so we needed to add our new employee position to that. And Section 13 is the employee handbook, and we wanted consistency terminology on that. And so we reference an administrative code in one of the phrases, and we wanted to make it consistent that it's the commissioner handbook. So these are very technical kind of cleanup matters to follow what we've already practiced. So if there are any questions about any of the handbook revisions, we hope to get these blessed and a final version printed for some time.
Thank you. Lost my place here. Is no most, it says no. Oh, there's an information item. I'm sorry, there's business item. Is there a motion? Do we need a motion on this? I would entertain a motion to approve.
Chair Stark, if I may, I would just like to note for the record that we have no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Item is back to the board, and I would entertain a motion to approve.
Chair Stark, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to, Chair Stark, I just briefly want to thank Executive Director and Council on making, formalizing that past practice. It's, I think, requiring a formal vote can potentially create an unnecessary conflict on the commission that might not be necessary, and make commissioners have to take a public position before they might be ready to. So I think this actually keeps this to be a more of a productive and working group. So I think it's a really good move. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second, do we not?
That is correct.
Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Waterfield,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Sierra,
Aye.
Chair Stark.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I believe that brings us to business item number 4. Is that correct?
That is correct. Chair Stark and members of the commission, business item number 4 is to consider making nominations to the 2022-2023 Lafco Board of Directors and to select voting delegates for the 2022 Lafco elections.
Mr. Prater.
Thank you, Chair. So at our last meeting, we did select voting delegates for the 2 members that are attending. So we've completed that task. We don't need to look at that unless somebody's wanting to back out, but I think we're solid on that. So this was an opportunity in case any of the county or special district members has recontemplated whether they'd like to run on the Lafco board. We've placed this item for that to happen. The deadline is September 19th for that. And so this will be our last opportunity to hold a meeting, which requires, if there is somebody interested, requires a resume of that individual, and the application requires a signature by the chair that they've been nominated. And so this is our last opportunity to put somebody on the Lafco board if they want to join our current board sitting member. Mr. Stark. If there are any questions about this, well, happy to answer any.
Any questions? I'm not detecting volunteers leaping forward to join me in
Well,
the
yeah,
grueling
you're not-
service.
You're
on
not
the-
required to serve, so.
It's not bad. It's not as bad as I thought.
Good.
It's sort of like only half dreadful. I had thought it was going to be full dreadful, but it's not. It's only half dreadful. In any event, is there public comment on this item, Madam Clerk?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
And I take it we don't need a motion to do nothing. Thank you. You learn things. You don't need a motion to do nothing. The next item is information item number 1.
Chair Stark and members of the commission, information item number 1 is to receive and file a report on pending Santa Barbara Lafco applications.
I'd ask our EO to report.
Good, thank you. Okay, so this is a report on our pending applications, and we'll get right into it. So obviously, most notably at the top of the list here is the pending Bailey Avenue Sphere of Influence into the city of Lompoc. As we all know, that they filed for a Sphere of Influence amendment and annexation, and that has been placed on hold. In lieu of that, the city is now seeking just a standalone application to amend their sphere of influence for that site. So staff has been in talks with their city and their staff about submitting a complete and thorough application so that we can expedite that application through the Lafco process. And so that is pending a submittal. We anticipate that will likely come in before at least the end of the year, if not within a month or so. And so we'll wait to see how that comes in, and we'll play that out to the Lafco process. Generally, that will take at least a minimum of 70 days before we can get it probably to the commission to take any kind of look at that application just to get through the sphere process. So that leads us to the most recent application that was submitted. That was 399 Arboleda. We announced that at the last meeting, as that is a application from the landowners, and that has been submitted to the surveyor for review of map and legal. And we anticipate that coming back next week. The report back was sent out. We'll see where we sit and if they are slated for moving forward with that application. But I would anticipate that likely in November or December timeframe to come back to the commission for action. And the next two, we just took action and hearing on those at this meeting, the Jan and Way out of agency service agreement in Toro Canyon. And it's been taking roughly about 3 to 5 months to process an application from the time it gets submitted to the time we can get it to the commission for an approval. And lastly is the Holiday Hill application. They're going to amend the sphere of influence and annex into the Goleta sanitation for an art studio. And we anticipate that at our next hearing coming forward. So if there are any questions about the applications or the process, I'd be happy to answer any.
No, thank you. I take it since this is an information item, a status, we don't need any motions unless there are questions from commissioners. I do have one question. Do we have the flexibility, assuming that at some point the Bailey Avenue thing is ready for the commission to hear it, do we have the flexibility to have a meeting in the North County when that comes toward us?
We do have that flexibility, and we are looking at potentially hosting our last meeting in North County. We're going to see how that plays out. And at that time, we generally adopt our next calendar year, and we are going to target our alternating schedule again for
Thank you.
next year.
Are there any further questions? Mr. Nelson?
Yes, thank you, Chair Stark. I have a question. I know that there's other things out there in the community that are other applications. There's environmental work being done on an application up in Santa Maria and Orchid right now. So where do those show up on a list? Do we track those?
Those are tracked by staff as we work on them, so we make note of them, but they're not official applications. And we typically do not provide that as part of our summary report because it's not in-house as a formal application. But there are a number of applications that we are monitoring and keep track of. Most notably, North County has a handful of them. City of Solvang has an application that they're contemplating as well. And I believe the city of Buellton is looking at some kind of service agreement as well.
Is there a way, either formally or informally, to get that information on a regular basis? I know you guys are tracking it.
Yeah, I would
And
say
I don't know if it
you,
needs to be in this, but
yeah,
I'm
if
definitely
you'd like to
interested as
have
a
any
supervisor.
update to that, just reach out to me and we can talk about the applications that we're aware of, that we're keeping track of and maybe even spending some staff time on.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick comment. In looking at the applications since the beginning of the year, the Jan and Way application sailed through. Looks like by the time it was applied in June to completion today. Is there something special that we did or they did or something that enabled it to fly right on through the process?
That's a good question. That is an application for an out-of-agency service agreement. And so it doesn't follow the same procedurals and timeframes and is not required to submit a map and legal description, which is typically the thing that holds most applications up, is they need that approval and sign off by the county surveyor that everything is meets the standard to submit to the State Board of Equalization.
So they had their ducks all in a row before they.
Yeah,
They
so,
really started
and
the
they're
application
fortunate that
process,
the
yeah.
type of applications they applied for doesn't require the one piece that requires a kind of a-
Congratulations on that. That was
Yeah,
well
so
done.
Does that conclude the item? There's no action necessary. That brings us to information item number 2, or was that information item number 2?
No, that was information item number 1.
Then brings us to information item number 2. Would ask the EO to report.
Oh.
Oh, please
Chair
read it
Stark
into
and
the
members of
record.
the commission, information item number 2 is to receive and file a report on the Lafco Legislative Committee meetings held on July 29th, 2022, and Lafco August 2022 quarterly report.
Thank you, Mr. Prater.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an update from our last meeting. We had a legislative update that indicated that the protest provisions and the omnibus bill was signed by the governor. Since then, there's a number of bills that have gone through a number of committees and new proposals. The first one I wanted to speak to that's on the list that the Lafco Ledge Committee spoke to was SB 739, and this would allow private golf courses to be transitioned to housing bill after the golf course had been closed for a period of 5 years. And so this bill was sitting at the Natural Resources Committee and was deferred by them. This is a bill that was opposed by Lafco until we had, so it's been stalled in the process.
That bill did not pass, you're saying?
Did not pass the Natural Resources Commission yet. There were a number of open meeting law bills that has made it through the cycle. First is AB 1944, which has to do with teleconferencing and allowing that to continue forward. That bill failed to meet the deadline, and so did not make it out of Government and Finance Committee. Similarly, AB 2449 deals with continuing teleconferencing as well. That bill was suspended as of last month. And lastly is AB 2647, and this bill has to deal with posting written comments that are submitted within 72 hours and posting that on the Lafco website and also giving an indication of a location, a physical location of where a copy can be received for that. And so that was, the Senate concurred on that bill, and that bill is moving towards the governor's desk for signature. And then finally, the SB 1100, that was signed by the governor on August 22nd, and that has to deal with removal of an individual that was willfully making interruptions at a meeting after a warning has been granted. So that is now in effect. Not that Lafco has a lot of contentious meetings.
We're the most peaceful government agency on earth, the Lafco.
That is a new authority of the chair now for all boards and commissions, that a chair can exercise if there's an interruption.
If I might be getting ahead of myself, would it be appropriate to ask our counsel to brief us at the next meeting on any changes in procedure that we need to know about with respect to any of these Brown Act bills? Seems like it would be, if there's anything worth talking about, it'd probably be a good idea.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we can do that. I do know, just reading the bill, it looks like it's self-executing, so I don't think we need to adopt new procedures, but still some basic training on what we can expect or do when it occurs, such a situation occurs.
Thank you. I'd be does that?
One more bill, that was AB 975, and that is the FPPC ruling on gifts and notifications. So they've made some changes to that. They revised that now so that they've reduced the period for a lobbyist to be able to do that, down to 15 days to have to notify when lobbyists have given a gift or donation. And they've increased it for the officials. So when they receive it, they now have 30 days to report that after the calendar quarter has elapsed. So they monkey around with a few of the dates, made it a shorter time frame for lobbyists to have to declare that, and a longer period for the officials to declare any gifts that were given under that ruling. So that concludes the bills that are currently active. We will have another legislative committee meeting on October 7th, which I'll attend via Zoom as well, and we'll give an update to the commission when we have some more information to give you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak from the public on this?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, we have no request to speak.
Thank you. If there are no questions from the commission, there's no motion that's necessary. We can proceed to the next item, which is information item number 3. Would you please read that item into the record, Madam Clerk?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, information item number 3 is to receive and file a report on Santa Barbara Lafco website.
Mr. Prater.
Thank you, Commission. As we announced, we did make the transition to a new website, and so we wanted to cross our fingers, give a live demo of that website. Natasha will be presenting this item and walking you through the website, letting you see what it looks like and where to find some basic information on our website. So with that, Natasha, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Stark and members of the commission. We just briefly wanted to walk you through our new Lafco website that we are pretty excited to have launched recently and to be using. It is very user-friendly. We are still doing some minor tweaks and adjustments. So if you happen to see any items that you would like adjusted or fixed or have any recommendations, please let us know and we will go ahead and get some of those taken care of. We just briefly wanted to show you a little bit how to navigate through this website. We do have, when you log into our homepage here, this is what you see. We have a section here under our tabs. We have notices, budgets, applications, commission, staff, and meetings. And most of you will probably want to access our meetings tab. If you click on that tab here, you'll be able to see all of our current commission meetings. We also have If you click further to open and expand that tab, you'll be able to see all of our past meetings, and you can go all the way back to 1999 and access commission files, resolutions, and staff reports from those meetings. We also have on the right-hand side here, you'll see we have a video meeting archive. You can click on that, and it will take you to where you can access videos as well as agendas for past meetings, as well as our current meeting. We do have, if you go to our governance tab here at the top, you'll be able to see a tab that says on the left-hand side, we do have a tab that says transparency. If you click on that, that will take you to a portion of our site where we have a lot of information related to the cities and districts, our service area map. You can access our budgets and audits. And any of these tabs, these are, what we would call shortcuts of tabs you can click on that will take you to the actual documents that are built within this website. We do have a section here under the Services tab where applicants or anyone interested in wanting to file an application with Lafco can click on this tab, look at spheres of influence, any type of guidelines, MSR guidelines, conditions. They can read up on municipal service reviews, sphere of influence updates, and cities. And if you click on the Applications tab, we have documents listed, such as the schedule of processing fee, cost accounting agreement, environmental questionnaire, and additional forms and documents that they can download in order to file an application with us. And once again, if you click on our home button, you can scroll down. We do have some of these tabs again that are easier for you to click on and navigate. We can click on our commission tab, and this lists all of our members and when their, I believe their expiration term. We do have a search feature located at the top. You can simply type in, I believe a project we had recently was Via Maria. If you do a type in Via Maria, you will be able to actually see any documents within our website, and it'll take you to the commission meeting for any documents that would be listed under Via Maria. Again, as I mentioned, it is a pretty easy website to navigate, a lot easier than the past website that we did have. Do any of the members have any questions for us?
What I would add is this site is now fully managed by Lafco staff, and so Natasha does the main hosting of all of the staff reports and stuff, and so it does make it very convenient for her to put all that stuff on our agendas page, be able to push that out to any interested parties that we may have and the commissioners to navigate you towards this site. And we do have that search feature that you type in any version of a word or something, you don't need specifics. It will take you to a host of all of that data all the way back to 1999 that we have on there. It finds its common title and names. And so just keep playing with different words if you're looking for something specific that you're looking for. And so it's been handy, and it's the most affordable website I've ever seen.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have any requests to speak on this item, Madam Clerk?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, we have no request to speak on this item.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners on this, our new website? Or revamped website, I guess. Do we have to give this a number, like, website 2.0 or 6.3 or something?
I'm not sure what version that would be, but I would like to thank Natasha for showing us through that and doing all the work of putting
Yeah,
all that
thank
data.
you,
in.
Tasha. Thank you for your work on that.
Thank
for
you
all
very
your
much.
effort.
That concludes information item number 3. There's no need for a motion. We would now go to commissioner announcements and any requests for future agenda items. Do we have any commissioner announcements or requests? No, I have a brief announcement. It really has very little, if nothing to do with the commission. I should tell you that I happen to be a board member of the local League of Women Voters, and I'm in the education arm of that, and the league is putting out 2 forums for the coming election season that may be of interest to the general public. The first is the assembly race between Greg Hart and Mike Stoker, and we're doing a forum, I believe, at the Santa Barbara Women's Club, probably with a hybrid Zoom connection. I'm not sure how that'll work, but that's on October 6th at 6 o'clock after the Lafco meeting. And the second is the following week, October 13th, again at 6 o'clock. And I think this is going to be at the TVSB studios. We're going to do the traditional pros and cons program, explaining the various state and local ballot measures and the arguments for and against them. It's a neutral educational thing. Nobody's going to take a position on anything, but spread the word. It should be educational, and of course encourage everybody to vote, which is all important. That if there are no further commissioner comments.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I have one. Just a report, because most of you have email networks. I serve you as vice chair of 3CE, the county's majority of account holders in the county. That's the energy provider for the majority. And we, like the IOUs, are facing a very tough Labor Day weekend. The heat wave drives up people's energy usage. So we really are urging people to cut back usage from 4 to 9 p.m. pretty much for the entirety of the heat wave. That's also the most expensive time of the day, so it's usually the right time to not use anything anyway. But some misconceptions out there, of course. Sometimes I put one of these things, and then one of my friends that has solar goes, well, I don't have to worry about that because I have solar. Nope. Unless you have storage as well, your use during 4 to 9 p.m. contributes to the problem too. So whether or not you're a solar customer, please cut back during that time. And of course, for those wusses that have air conditioning, run it earlier in the day because that can help cool down the house ahead of time so that people aren't tempted to use it from 4 to 9.
Thank you. Good advice. My understanding is this is a heat dome and is supposed to be more persistent than our previous past heat waves, if I get that correctly. Are there any additional executive officer comments?
Thank you, Chair. I do not have additional comments per se, but I would like to end our meeting here with our announcement and our profound loss of a dear member of our community in Ventura, Ms. Carmen Ramirez. And so there may be members of the commission that had worked with her and may want to say some words. But she has passed, and she was also a Lafco chair of Ventura Lafco. So we'd like to end our meeting with a moment of silence for her after any commissioners would like to say any words if they would like to.
Thank you. Are there any commissioners like to say anything?
I'll just briefly say for any of you that didn't know Carmen, she was a real class act. I've known her for 20 years, always truthful, always forthright, had a tremendous ability to apparently make half the electeds in Ventura County feel like she was their mentor, their primary mentor, which means that she put a lot of time into a lot of young, electeds. It's just sad that the suddenness of life, she was hit crossing a crosswalk where she goes every Friday during the summer for the summer concerts at Heritage Square in Oxnard, and died soon afterwards.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. With that, we will adjourn in memory of Carmen Menendez, indeed a fine human being gone too soon. Thank you. We're adjourned to October 6th, 2022 at 1:00 p.m.